What's up, Zach here, and today I've got the all-new Nike Zoom Fly 6. Let's see what's inside them. Now, whatever you thought about the Nike Zoom Fly 5, and there were a lot of different opinions on them, they were innovative, right? I mean, Zoom X Scrap definitely wasn't for everybody, but it was something interesting to pop open once you got the shoe open. The Zoom Fly 6 also has got some pretty interesting things under the hood, but first, let's check out the uppers. Now, number one, you do get a very lightweight, malleable TPU mesh and textile weave under that. You do actually have, it's padded along the central spine of the tongue, so honestly, I didn't get a lot of lace irritation. They do have a runner's knot, and all these lace eyelets are reinforced, which is nice. I did notice if you're using the runner's knot, the heel slippage, mild, honestly one of the better running shoes in terms of its profile for heel slippage, which is nice. But if you don't use the runner's knot, it is pretty moderate. And the padding around the ankle collar and heel counter, I mean, it's decent. It's not the most padding I've ever seen, but it does hold you into the shoe if you can use that runner's knot. The more high arched your foot is, the more that's gonna irritate you. The more low arched you are, the more you're just gonna sink into it. It's gonna be pretty comfortable. Now you look at this thing on the breathability test, only heats up 103.5 degrees. Honestly though, that's a little bit higher than we see with a lot of other Nike super shoes. You can see on the breathability mapping though, I mean, fog is just blowing out of these things everywhere. I think it's maybe because there's actually 2 layers of that upper there, so it's just more area for heat to kind of, stay in this shoe. Obviously, it still does a great job at breathing, but it's not the Alpha Fly, it's not the Vapor Fly, but like I said, still pretty darn good. And in lieu of the upper durability test, since you're not gonna be taking these through brush or anything, that's not gonna be dragging or sliding these. The one thing I will say though is there is no reinforcement for the toenails under there. There is just one little pad under the medial side for the big toenail, but it's kind of up higher in the shoe. It doesn't go lower. So in terms of internal trauma, if you've got long toenails, something like that, or jagged toenails, these ones are going to be a little bit less durable on the underside versus some others that have that, a little bit more of a beefy toenail guard. And I'd just say the one reason why these also have a decent lockdown is because they do have a very high gusset that does give you a lot more feelings of containment. And like I said, it's a couple degrees more in that breathability test. So honestly, to me, it's worth it for the few extra degrees you get on the breathability test to have that better feeling of security. All right, but getting into the main event, the midsole teardown, and what is SR02 foam, because that's what Nike has advertised these as having. Now, number one, they also have Zoom X foam top loaded, right? Then they have their standard, fly plate, which starts basically it's a sandwich shank, but for all intents and purposes, it's top loaded. And then it slopes down there into the forefoot, creating that forefoot leaflet and that springboard. Now, looking at the SR02 foam, now it definitely feels like a very, very soft, pillowy EVA, almost like a less dense Cushlon 3.0. It also kind of feels like React X foam. And on the microscope, it definitely looks like a supercritical EVA. So I do think this is a formulation of EVA, or is it an EVA and OCP, or is it an EVA and TPE mix like React X is? I'm not sure, but it does seem to be a very lightweight, pillowy EVA-based foam, whether that's supercritical EVA, a blend. I'm not positive exactly what it is because they just call it their proprietary foam, but it is comfortable, and it does have a really interesting compression profile when we get into the runnability, because when you first take these out and you're just kind of walking in them, just kind of warming up, just taking them just on a stroll, they feel 100% different than when you actually start putting them up to, more jogging pace or more, tempo pace. What I thought really told the tale of this midsole was the bounce height test. Got 35 centimeters in the rear foot, 44 in the forefoot. Now 44, that is what we're used to seeing with Zoom X foam alone, because there's just a large slab of Zoom X in the forefoot, really small slab of SR02 in the forefoot, and then obviously it gets bigger. More SR02 foam in the heel versus Zoom X. Now if you look at the slides that myself and Xenon just collabed on, this is TPE on the top and then rubberized EVA on the bottom. That's around exactly what we got on our bounce height test in the rear foot, right, where it's the top loaded TPE and then a pretty large slab of rubberized EVA on the bottom. So it makes sense. And there's also a little carbon fiber leaflet in here too, not for the same reasons as this shoe. It's completely different reasons. If you want to check out that review video, I'll leave it linked above and in the description below if you want to check these out for recovery. But it makes sense that these two got extremely similar results where the two foams would have been similar. So that also kind of clues me in as to what's going on with these. If you have more insight on that, please leave me a comment down below. But that's kind of what I found on the microscope, as well as just looking at these on X-ray, as well as, bouncing a ball bearing off of them. But I will just say, kind of bringing this whole midsole plane down for a landing, these do feel really pillowy for there being a large carbon fiber plate right underneath of you, but they also feel very vapor fly as well. It's a weird marriage of kind of like a Vaporfly shoe and almost like an invincible run shoe. So like I said, we'll talk about it in the runability section, but honestly, very interesting profile shoe, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that really like these even more than the Vaporflies and the Alphaflies, for sure, even for like a race day shoe. All right, but getting into the outsole tread, just pretty standard, you know, waffle pattern with some dimples in there. You do have that exposed terraced midsole there. You can see the fly plate, you know, 2 pods in the rear foot, and then 1 giant slab here in the forefoot. Honestly, I mean, it grips fine, and this is, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type territory with this. So honestly, it's gonna grip both, you know, pretty damp asphalt, cement, and concrete. It's gonna do fine on just generic asphalt, cement, and concrete as well. And look at the outsole durability test, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper. I mean, yeah, almost a millimeter of damage. The durometer comes in at a 15 on these, which is actually pretty good. So really for durability in the outsole, like I said, they're really not bad. But I think the biggest tail of the tape in these shoes comes in the speed ratio. Coming at a 3.99, shank score of 0.4 brings them up to a 4.39. Now, do these feel like the Alphaflies on foot? No. Do they feel like the Vaporflies on foot? No. They are different, but to me, they accomplish a lot of the same goals. They just do it in a little bit more of a smooth package. Whereas the Alphaflies feel like a pogo stick, these more feel like they're gliding on the road. It's a very interesting sensation, and it's different than other fly-plated Nike running shoes. So like I said, we'll talk about it in the runability section, but suffice to say, very smooth, very pillowy, enough kick to them for sure, but like I said, a little more of a smoother ride versus more of a violent kick. All right, but getting into the fit of the Zoom Fly 6, this is also where sometimes numbers can be a little bit deceiving. These things have an 11-degree inflare. They come in at 29 centimeters in length, only 9 centimeters of metatarsal width, 10 of toe box width, only a 24-degree toe box taper, so pretty mellow in terms of the toe box taper. The thing is, for them only having 9 centimeters of metatarsal width, I had 0 cramping in these. And a lot like some other more, you know, minimalist upward running shoes, just because they're not as wide, right, in terms of last, doesn't mean that they're gonna hurt. I mean, for the lifetime I had these shoes on, I did not have one bit of irritation or cramping or pain. So I'd say if you're a narrow and medium foot, you just go true to size on these things. If you're a really short footed, narrow foot, you probably can go down a half size, get a little bit more weight reduction. That'd be nice. And like I said, medium and 2E, I'd just go true to size on these. A 4E, you can go up one size. The thing is, you're gonna start to get into heel slip territory in these. Maybe try to break them in 1/2 size up, right? Because like I said, they will break in. Like I said, for my 2E foot true to size, they honestly did not feel bad at all. It actually felt pretty good. A bunion and Taylor's bunion is obviously gonna take a little bit longer to break in, but like I said, the uppers are very accommodating. Now, in terms of the snake bitten foot, luckily you can get a very low profile orthotic in these. Now, they're not the most stable things in the midfoot. The thing is, though, is when you're actually running in them, a lot different than when you're just walking around in them. So I would say with an orthotic, for everything besides someone that has ankle instability, they're honestly not bad shoes whatsoever. Like I said, a lot of runners in my practice come in for, you know, low profile custom orthotics to be able to fit in any shoe. But honestly, after a break-in, these will fit a Power Step Pulse in them too. So you can get, you know, a decent orthotic in them. They're not gonna fit a super bulky orthotic that well, but they will fit a lower profile one. So that's honestly nice to see. All right, but getting into the runability and something I really had to feel to believe, and these honestly are a great heel striking shoe. I could not get over how these things transitioned from heel to toe. Now, I've been trying to get more into a true midfoot strike. And although, yeah, these are fine for midfoot strikers, and when you are striking midfoot, they don't feel as unstable as you would think they would feel, like I said, because like the foam just kind of compresses out and it feels a little more stable that way. And obviously for forefoot strikers, you can strike in these fine, but I was really blown away at, like I said in the speed section, how smooth these things transitioned from heel to toe on like a full heel to toe gait cycle, and how it just felt amazing coming through that gait cycle, right? It just felt comfortable, it felt quick. So if you are someone that heel strikes and wants to kind of get into a series of shoe like this, like especially something like a full-length carbon fiber plate, these are not terrible shoes. Honestly, these aren't terrible daily trainers either. This is an interesting shoe, kind of where this fits into the category. No, like I said, it's not a rocket ship like the Alphaflies are, but they are pretty darn comfortable shoes for a lot of different use cases. So I was one of the people that actually liked the Zoom Fly 5s, and Honestly, it's no different with the 6s. I do really like these, and I think the SRO2 foam, I would like to see some longer term reviews on how this thing feels at like 200 miles, right? I think that'll be really interesting, and maybe I'll get a pair and put them through that and do a longer term review on it, because I am really interested to see what it feels like, what it's doing around that point, so maybe I will grab another pair and do that. But honestly, for the diversity of use cases that these, you know, kind of fit into and the problems that they solve, yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of them for sure. I definitely like, and like I said, Nike's been coming out with a lot of different running shoes they're throwing a lot of things at the wall right now, which in the running space at least, which I think is great. I wish they would do that more in the tennis space and to a certain extent in the basketball space. So yeah, kudos. These are pretty cool. They're not gonna be for everybody. Not everyone's gonna like them for sure. Like I said, the SRO2 foam is pretty pillowy, and there are gonna be certain people that just don't like that feel, but it is definitely a shoe I think, you know, it's worth a try for sure. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, especially if you're someone that's bought the Zoom Fly 6s and what has been your opinion of the feel underfoot, and if you've had kind of the same experience that I have had. And if you do want to see, you know, one of the obviously craziest shoes this year in the running space, the Adidas Pro Evo 1 going to the knife, a shoe that is made for one thing and one thing only, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect, rubber, and foam. I'll see you somewhere in the Sneakerverse.